of all, I came on active duty in the Air Force in 1993, right as Don't Ask, Don't Tell became a law. And my father was in the Air Force, did a whole career, so I had planned on doing the same. Always wanted to be in the military and stay in retirement, do 20 years. And then never envisioned that I would be caught up with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. On my last deployment, I was in Iraq, and while I was there, I wrote emails to family and friends and to someone that I was dating at the time, who was another Air Force officer. No different from my straight counterparts, as far as just emailing loved ones, keeping in touch with people back home to help, stay in touch and relieve the stress of the combat zone. After I left Iraq, the unit that replaced mine came in, and somehow or another, someone found those emails, which I thought I had deleted, and I'm still not exactly sure how that unfolded. They proceeded to search these. They brought him up to the chain of command, raised the attention of the squadron commander there in Iraq. During the height of the insurgency, they took time out from the war to search my emails. Went through over 500 plus emails to find maybe half a dozen or so that were damaging to myself in light of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. About 6 weeks later, my commander back in Germany, where I was stationed at the time, called me into his office, and then the first thing he did was read me the military's policy on homosexuality. And then he hands me the stack of emails. He says, "How do you explain these?" He just demanded that I give him an explanation. In other words, he asked. And I was obviously dumbfounded. I wondered how they got them in the first place. But I at least had the good sense to not say anything. And the only thing I told him was I was not going to make a statement until I first talked to a lawyer. So we went round and round for about 20 minutes. And then ultimately he fired me from my job. And I was leading about 200 men and women at the time, so a very big leadership position in the unit, which just had a huge disruptive effect on the mission, as you can imagine. And a couple months later, my security clearance was suspended, part of my pay was terminated, and then I went through about a 16-month-long ordeal before I was finally thrown out. And then on my last day, they gave me a police escort from the base, as if I were a common criminal or a threat to national security. And so that's what happened. That's how I got thrown out of the military. I think the military leadership has been overly cautious on this. There was some training that was necessary, but I don't feel it should have taken as long as it has now. Just from the simple standpoint that the young men and women that are in the military today, this is just such a not an issue for them to worry about. They have so many more important issues to worry about as far as deployments, pay, whether or not they're going to be home to see their loved ones, if they're going to have a translator when they need one, if they're going to have a medic when they need one. That's far more important than sexual orientation. So I think I went to the latest hearing they had in the Republican-led House a few months ago, and they had all the service chiefs there, and they testified about the status of where they are now in the training. And I think this was April or May, so several months after President Obama signed the law into effect. And every one of them admitted that this is far less of an issue than they thought it was going to be last year. The training has gone well. They've really seen no significant issues to date, and they all said that they really see no reason why this can't be done this year. Once Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal is completely finished, LGBT service members can serve openly, obviously, but there will still be no benefits for them. And that has nothing to do with the military itself. That has to do with the Defense of Marriage Act, which will be the next major hurdle in this battle. The State Department, Hillary Clinton has been absolutely amazing with the State Department, and they have gone as far as they can within the confines of DOMA to give benefits to same-sex partners and spouses. And we're hoping that there may be some parallels, some analogies with the Defense Department. They can certainly draw some lessons learned from what the State Department has done so far. I'm hoping to go back in. I've got a lawsuit in the works right now with SLEN. We've got a wonderful law firm, Morrison & Forster, that's taking it on pro bono, providing us great legal counsel, legal advice, and representation. And we're asking for not only reinstatement, but to get me back to where I would be now in my career. So if we win everything, I would go back in as a lieutenant colonel with 18 years in. The military, back in the 40s and 50s, the military was ahead of the racial integration issue across the nation. They really led the way. They were far ahead of the civil rights movement. They led the trend. In this case, it's sad to say that the military is behind society. We now have several states that have gay marriage. Most population, the majority of the population supports gay marriage, and so in this case, the military is really catching up with the rest of society. It was never part of the original Don't Ask, Don't Tell legislation, the transgender issue with military service. It's always been a military policy, and actually partly a medical issue with the military. So I believe they're going to address that at some point in the future, but it's not covered under the current repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So transgenders will still not be allowed to serve openly in the military. So yeah, so that's going to be a future fight there for the T community. We're going to have to fight. I am just so delighted, honored, and humbled to be here as the Grand Marshal. Denver is just an absolutely amazing city, tremendous community. I've just been overwhelmed by the LGBT community here, and not just that, but the straight support of the LGBT community. It's just tremendous. We had both of our senators out here today, Senator Bennett, Senator Udall, and that's just tremendous to have both your senators here marching the parade. Senator Udall in particular, I'm very close with him. I've worked with him back in Washington on repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and he has just been such a strong leader and such a strong advocate for this fight. So Colorado and Denver has a lot to be proud about, and they should just enjoy this day and enjoy this moment.